Piłsudski returned to Poland. He arrived by train after having been released from Magdeburg. The Polish Regency Council had applied, you could say, to the Germans. They had asked them to release him. The Germans felt that there was no longer any sense in keeping him imprisoned. It would be better if he could go back to Poland and take the reins. There had been a socialist government formed on November 7th by Ignacy Daszyński. They, at that moment, were the ones that claimed that they had authority in the country. But in reality, there were various regional centers that had taken power in their own hands, so to say, and there was no unified. There was the Regency Council that technically was in authority, in power, but still it wasn't something that was tangible. It wasn't something that was fully legitimate. Piłsudski arrives at the station here in Warsaw by train at 7:30 in the morning on November 10th. He is greeted by a large delegation from the Regency Council and the top leadership of the Polish military organization. The first day is spent on various talks, negotiations, typical diplomacy. The next day, though, November 11th, is when the Regency Council officially hands over power of the Polish army into his hands. They recognize him as the leader. And the next day, on the 12th day, they give him the authority to form a government. The socialists that had formed their own government on November 7th, they realize that they cannot compete with Piłsudski. They agree, they hand over power as well. But the date of November 11th in the rest of the world, as you mentioned at the start, Armistice Day, here in Poland, Independence Day. And what is fortunate is that the Poles at the time were still in a difficult situation. They had to create one country out of three different administrative areas that had been part of three different empires, three different armies, three different administrative systems, three different legal systems, three of everything, you could say. So patching this up together, I guess the Poles would be upset if I compared it to Frankenstein's monster.
Yes, but, I'm sure.
But nevertheless, there is some example to this, that you had to take a piece of every area and try to create one whole out of it. Fortunately for Poland, it turned out to be something much more vital and authentic and real, full of life power, not like that monster. And this was something that would be proven in those initial battles for Poland's borders. It would be proven even more in the Polish Bolshevik War that finally...
Well, indeed, this was, of course, had to be... The independence was not just a given, it had to be defended at a later stage, particularly, of course, as the Bolsheviks decided they would like to spread their revolution across Europe. Because they were very disappointed, I think, as we've mentioned before, the Russian proletariat wasn't really proletarian enough. There weren't enough of them. They wanted to capture what they saw as a massive industrial proletariat in Germany, and of course Poland stopped them.
This was that debate that we spoke about in a previous episode, that in the socialist or communist movement at the time, you had that debate on how international the revolution would be. In the Polish case, the socialist leader, Józef Piłsudski, viewed socialism as a tool for national liberation struggle. There were other people in Poland, for example, Rosa Luxemburg, who believed more in that international aspect of the revolution. And in Bolshevik Russia, you had the same debate among some of the Bolsheviks. For example, Joseph Stalin was more in favor of a steady revolution within Russia, so to say. Others, especially Trotsky, was more in favor of spreading the revolution abroad. Lenin, for a while, was on the fence, but in the end went with Trotsky. He took his advice, and despite being embroiled in a civil war still with the white forces in Russia, he believed, once he had weakened them enough, he believed that they could go on a large push and spread the revolution to all of Europe. In one way, you could say that it would have been an insurance policy, that if for some reason the whites at some point would be able to recreate their forces, create some kind of problem in Russia, take back power, if there would have been a fully communist European continent, then naturally they would come to Russia's aid in that moment. And it was also about the lasting impact of the revolution, that if the revolutionary government in Moscow, to which they moved the government from St. Petersburg after the revolution, if it would have fallen there, then that global revolution, which according to Marxist doctrine had technically been, because they viewed history as predetermined, more or less, that all of history had been leading up to the point of this revolution. Basically, they saw class struggle back in ancient Egypt, and they thought that history through these dialectical stages was always advancing toward revolution, that naturally the French Revolution was a great step in that direction, but it was first with that Russian Revolution that the power had finally been given to the working class, and that soon the paradise and utopian dreams of a communist society would be implemented.
Adam, the clock in the corner of the studio is blinking at me, so I'm afraid we must bring this programme to an end. Thank you. We'll pick it up next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not. If you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll continue the story. In the meantime, thank you for watching Poland Daily History.